This video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. For a limited time, you can get 3 whole years for just $183 per month plus 3 months extra. With a 30-day money-back guarantee, protect your privacy and receive many other great benefits for this amazing low cost by clicking the link in the description below. So, before we begin, let me set the stage inside of your head. It's a late and quiet night. You haven't gotten the chance to check the time, but you assume it's somewhere between 9 or 10 p.m. It's quite dark outside, but through the window of your car, you finally find a place that looks open, shining like a beacon amongst the darkness. However, as you drive into the quiet, asphalt parking lot and step inside, you get a feeling that is rather unusual. The place is quiet, apart from the occasional sounds of employees and the constant beeps of the fryer. And looking around, the place doesn't feel like any other restaurant you've been to, at least not in a while. Through the windows, the view is completely black, only showing the faint lights of passing cars. The walls are dotted with odd, faded paintings, and the colors represent a world that's long been forgotten. A world of innocence, curiosity, and maybe even nostalgia. But after a quick few minutes, your order is finally ready, and you step back out into the lonely space of the night, continuing to your destination. But as you eat your delicious, greasy meal, you can't help but think of that weird place. So years later, you return to confirm your beliefs, but to your surprise, it's gone. I mean, the actual restaurant is there, but now it looks like every other place you've been to. Was it all possibly a dream? Now, chances are, you've probably had an experience similar to this one, whether it was years ago as a young child, or even recently as an adult. But I think we can all agree that at least once in our lives, we've had an encounter with one of these so-called odd restaurants. And today, these places are exactly what I'll be talking about. But unlike most creators I've seen, we won't be discussing the really crazy stuff like the non-standard McDonald's restaurants. Because while those are really cool, I feel like a lot of people overlook how crazy all of the places were back in the 90s and even 2000s. Even the so-called normal restaurants back then. And with this video, I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of these left behind relics, and see how crazy some of them got over the years. So without a further ado, let's take a look into how all of this began in the first place. So before we look into some of these crazy restaurants, we must ask ourselves how this occurred in the first place. Now at first, most fast food places didn't even have interiors to begin with, let alone interior decor, as most just had either a few bar stools or just a couple tables outside. But over time, this would of course change. And by the 1970s, most of the major players did have locations large enough to seat lots of people. And during this time, many places also began to market themselves with a very family-friendly image, which of course also means marketing to children, because we all know how profitable that is, such as the creation of the kids' meals, which often came with toys, and of course the famous, or for some of you, infamous playgrounds, which would totally not lead to lawsuits and various other issues. And while the interiors were relatively natural and relatively mundane, they would get crazier over time, such as the addition of various colors and of course, neon. With that, we jump to the 90s, as by then, we've essentially entered what I'm calling the renaissance of fast food. Giant proportions, ultra hot deals, and zany commercials that still live rent-free in your head.
The Fitness Gram Pacer test.
Good for basically everyone and everything that wasn't your arteries or your heart. A time in which seemingly anything could be done without any limits or guidelines to follow. And this bold image was obviously reflected in the designs of the restaurants. But to get an idea of how these places actually looked, I thought it would be fun to check out some examples and rank them from most normal to the absolutely insane. But in order to do that, we're gonna have to do some traveling and searching across the scary internet. And for that, we have today's sponsor, Atlas VPN. Have you ever wanted to save money, avoid being tracked online, and watch your favorite content from any part of the world? Of course you do! Atlas VPN can help in all of that and even more. With their special deal, Atlas VPN can keep your Google searches private, stop ads and potentially dangerous malware, get the best deals while shopping online, and even unlock shows not available in your country, such as this very familiar show that I always talk about that has episodes not available in my country because the American distributor waits forever to drop new episodes. But with a VPN, now you can watch them perfectly fine, and without getting in trouble. And with their special offer, you can get 3 whole years for just $183 per month, plus 3 months extra, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protecting your privacy with the best deal on the market, and on unlimited devices. So before it's too late, get this limited time offer using the link in the description. Special thanks to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. So to start, we have Arby's.
All our food keeps blowing up.
Now, honestly, I don't even have that much to say about this one. There's some strangely dark carpet, a bunch of generic tables and chairs, and that's kind of it. I don't even know if this is actually 90s, it could be 2000s, but regardless, I really don't have much else to say because there's nothing really to talk about. Like, what do you want me to say about this? That it looks like my elementary school library? Yeah, not really too exciting, but I guess it's okay for what it is. But moving on, we have Wendy's. Now, as savage as their Twitter account is, Wendy's design in the 90s was surprisingly chill. Every restaurant I've seen has this light brown, beige color everywhere. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll get some fake plants and a severe roasting. But overall, it's not eccentric or even that noticeable, but I think it works for what it is. It kind of looks like the lobby for an old retirement home or even your lovely grandmother's house, which I think actually works since they were kind of going for an old-time feel, so I guess it's appropriate for the occasion. Now coming up next, we have McDonald's. Now, McDonald's is kind of hard to rank because depending on where you went, the styles differed a lot. One could just be a somewhat ordinary, relatively calm place, while the one down the street is a 50s diner, and the one across town is literally themed after a freaking zoo. Rest in peace, Dallas Zoo McDonald's. It is very unfortunate I was never able to meet you in person, but your legacy shall never be forgotten. However, apart from the more unique locations, McDonald's still had some fun in its normal spots. Some of the really old places had these cool murals on the walls, and I know some of them used to have actual Nintendo 64s, which I think everyone agrees is just absolute peak design. And I'm pretty sure a handful even got animatronics, but I don't think these were too common. Also, I think the color schemes they used were pretty nice, as most of them tried to be formal or organized, but still had some nice color. I mean, does anyone remember when they used to have those cool red roofs with the yellow lines that looked like fries? It's been years since I've seen one with that design, but to me, that'll always be the definite McDonald's design, even if it is long retired. But not to be outdone by their rival, Burger King also tried to be hip and cool. How did they accomplish this?
I like square butts and I cannot lie. Squid and sea star can't deny. When a sponge walks in, 4 corners in his pants like he got phone book implants, the crowd shouts. All the ladies stare.
Well, they used a very simple and elegant method called, let's just use every random color scheme and design pattern in existence, and then just hope for the best that one of them works. And when I say that they used every design in existence, I mean it. Because some of the ones I've seen basically have no interesting features whatsoever, while a few just went all out on their design. Like some seemingly just opted out for the most basic, boring color scheme you can possibly imagine, while the others just overdosed on Skittles and used the entire rainbow. And if you keep looking, you'll just find more and more and more designs. Like, I kid you not, I have yet to find 2 older stores that share the same design, which makes me seriously wonder how many designers Burger King had to pay up. Now next, we probably have the most famous one here. It's time for Taco Bell. Now honestly, this one needs no introduction, as the restaurants used a few different but very pleasing color schemes, ranging from light blues and pinks, to bright red, yellow, and oranges, and even some purples. And in true 90s fashion, you might even be lucky enough to find one with these crazy shapes dotted throughout the restaurant. Bonus points if you find some fake plants and flowers as well. And every single one of them always had enough art on the walls to even make the Louvre jealous. And I know it sounds tacky, but I would unironically hang some of these pictures up in my house, because 90s Taco Bell wall art has no right to go this hard. But if you think that's where the insanity ends, you are sorely mistaken, because while looking for pictures to use in this video, I found one on Google that even has neon inside of it. Although I don't think this was in every location. And I also found this very odd place that was listed as a Taco Bell, although it doesn't look like any location I've seen before. And who knows, there is probably even crazier designs out there, but unfortunately, aren't always the most well documented, so some of these designs may be lost to time. But with all that said, I actually found a chain that has even outdone Taco Bell. A place that's arguably even more 90s, and way more unhinged in its style. And that place is Arby's. Okay, so yeah, I did rank Arby's as having the most boring design, but you see, that was the later interiors. You've yet to see what the early designs looked like. And be warned, because your eyes will hurt. I mean, the color on some of these are just kinda everywhere, and it seems as if there is barely any order. It literally looks like they just pieced together whatever they could, and then said, that ought to do it. This is gonna be real radical with the kids. Although I have to admit, some of them actually do look quite nice, such as this pink one I found. And to be honest, I actually like these places, even the more chaotic ones, mainly because of how different they are. And those are only from the biggest chains, because I haven't even gotten to other chains like Carl's Jr. or local regional ones. Although most of these tend to usually have relatively moderate, reserved design that can still be found in most locations today. So while these places look beautiful, or terrible, if you're some cynic who doesn't like any fun in their lives, you may have noticed that these places are getting pretty hard to find. I mean, there are still a few out there, and you might even have one close to you. Lucky. But for the most part, it seems as if companies have made a huge effort to get rid of all of these older places. But why is that so? Well, it comes down to a few reasons, but to start, you could argue that it's just because, well, they're old. As cool as they are, these places are at least 20 to 30 years old, maybe even older, so naturally, a lot of these places do get dirty and worn out over time. And as years go by, it often gets harder to fix and replace worn out or broken furniture, eventually reaching the point that they just have to basically start all over. Although I should mention from personal experience, I have actually been to some really old places that are still in really good shape, sometimes even better than the new ones, so why are those taken down then? Well, I don't really have an exact answer, but I actually got a chance to recently talk with a manager of an old 80s Taco Bell. A once-in-a-lifetime experience, I know, who said that they were planning to tear the restaurant down, and while she, the employees, and even the customers actually really liked the old design, she mentioned that according to upper management, the building itself and facilities were in less great shape, despite the amazing decor. Which to me was pretty surprising since most buildings last more than 30 years, but I suppose these places may have not been built to last forever. However, another major factor is perception, and how these companies want to be viewed. Now, remember back in the day when I mentioned that fast food could be as crazy as it wanted, market to whoever it pleased, and do basically anything? Well, to put it simply, those days are long over. As many people now want something that feels sophisticated, healthy, and, dare I say, artisan? I have no clue what artisan even is, but I think it's a good thing. So by being cheap and unhealthy for years, and having its fans still, how could fast food joints make this change without changing the food? Well, the best way to do this was to make it feel like you're going somewhere nice, even if the food is literally a $1.50 taco. They want you to feel like you're going to somewhere like Shake Shack or Chipotle, but without the actual difference in quality, although some chains have tried to reorganize their menus. And not to mention that most of these places were meant to look appealing to children, with things such as play structures or fun murals depicting various mascots and characters. But now that marketing seriously unhealthy products to innocent, impressionable kids apparently stopped being cool, it's now more of a liability, not counting the actual liabilities from injuries by the playground. So when you have a barrage of bright neon colors and plastic from a long gone era, it really stands out, and now contradicts your current goal of being upscale and focusing on grown-ups. And just like that, the old McDonald's or Taco Bell is gone forever. And finally, as cool as the designs were, both inside and outside, they aren't the best for real estate. Now, have you ever seen an old building and immediately realized, hey, that used to be an old Taco Bell, even if it's literally a Subway franchise? Well, that's my point. As fun as they were, it's hard to sell a building that was made to fit your goals and your goals only, as any buyer would either have to make a lot of costly modifications, go with your style which can sometimes be unappealing and cheesy, or completely tear it down. But with this new blocky, characterless, almost blank style, practically anything can fit into it, and nobody would bat an eye. So when people point out that the buildings can literally swap logos and nobody would notice, that was actually kind of the point to an extent, as weird as that sounds. So with everything in mind, there's been one question I was thinking of. Will these styles ever come back? Now, as crazy as it sounds, it's very unlikely, but there is a chance. Because as of now, 80s and 90s design has made a huge comeback as of recently, so why wouldn't it apply to restaurants? Now, to be honest, there are some people who don't like the older designs, which is, I guess, kind of understandable. But there are also plenty who don't mind it, and many, including me, who actually love it. If you look it up online, you'll find many posting about how cool the designs were back in the day, or getting excited over the discovery of a place that hasn't been modernized. And as it gets rarer and rarer, I feel like these will be appreciated more and more. After all, we always want the things we don't have. And to be honest, I don't really have a major issue with the modern styles, but I kind of wished we at least got a couple different designs, as opposed to the same one or two that replace all. And I think it's obvious that some of these places were mainly meant to appeal to kids, but are themes like a 1950s diner or just having some nice colors really that much of a stretch? However, if there's one interesting thing I should point out, is that the chains aren't ignoring this, and a few have been doing some retro stuff as of recently. Burger King recently brought back a logo inspired by their 80s design, Pizza Hut did something similar, and last year McDonald's made an adult Happy Meal, which featured a not modern, but 2000 style restaurant on the package, iconic red roof and all. And not to mention the references to McDonaldland because, you know, nostalgia sells. And even if we don't get stuff as crazy as before, it does seem like the big chains are interested. And as people continue to complain about how soulless and terrible they think the new designs are, we might just get a retro-style restaurant, and the cycle will continue once more. And when that day comes, I can finally perish peacefully. Not because my life's work is done, but more likely because I ate way too much greasy food. But with that said, what do you think about these designs? I know this isn't the typical type of content I make, and I'm sure only a few actually care about this extremely niche topic. At least I think so, maybe the views will prove me wrong. But it was something I really wanted to discuss and something I'm actually quite passionate about. I'll definitely be making more videos about fast food in the near future alongside my regular content, so feel free to subscribe if you're into that. And until I find another old Taco Bell, B&B Productions will be signing out. Have a great day everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone! So for today's art of the day, we have this great piece of fan art for my character Hideaki, drawn by wonderful follower and fan the developer on Twitter. As you can see, Hideaki's just rocking out with his new mic at the old school Taco Bell, which is very fitting for this video. And the developer actually works on mods for the game Friday Night Funkin', where he actually included my OC Hideaki, which is crazy but totally awesome. Special thanks to him for that, and this wonderful fan art as well.